This is Jonah Hill, and you're listening to the only podcast that matters.
Hey, JJ, baby, his jump is money. Don't you worry. That boy Clay kills it on first take. I said, hey, JJ, baby, give us your money for our collab with Porte. You'll outdress Stephen A. Throw gang, we are joined by the Don Dada of Durham. He ain't ugly, but he only hits threes. Splashdown, he got that wet-ass basket pussy. Sultan of the Stripe, the Cooksville King, Chef Clay with the pot boy, the Lord of Lob City, Rub-a-dub-dub, Baron of the Bubs. Your phone in Narcs while he's Jonah of Beyond the Arc, the First Take Pharaoh, the King of Closet Organizing. Your man's giving the ick, JJ going Redick, the Cold Tub Titan, the Granola Bar Governor, Duke's all-time scoring leader, 15-year NBA veteran, podcaster, and ESPN analyst, JJ Redick. JJ, how are you?
I'm great. There's a lot to unpack there.
Salute, dude.
That is the best intro that I've ever gotten on a podcast. So I appreciate that.
ESPN, ABC, Disney, whoever wants it, they can have it.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
You're fucking welcome, dude. We wish we could join you out in Sag Harbor, but alas, James has COVID and we're not trying to kill your entire family. So we appreciate you hopping on Zoom today, JJ.
All good. You know, I had a bout with COVID in April and my son just had a bout as well. And the only reason we tested was because we were supposed to go to Bahamas for spring break. So we had to cancel the trip once and then we were going to go the day after school got out. We canceled it again. And unfortunately, we're just not going to make the trip. So that's fucking whatever.
Well, third time's a charm. So whenever it does happen and you run it back, we'll keep you in our T's and P's.
Yeah. At this point, I think I'm just going to try to take him to Disney World in the fall or something. I mean, it's
you're familiar with Orlando, so that should be easy, right?
Yeah, I am, and I'm a Disney employee. You know, I'm a Disney employee.
Oh, that's
as well.
right. What are the perks like when you go to Disney World?
I think we have a 1-day pass. Every employee has a 1-day pass.
1 day?
Yeah, well, free 1-day pass. I think that's all we get.
You get like a gift card or anything, or like
what the fuck?
I bet people like Stephen A. and Greeny, Mike Greenberg, I bet they probably have better perks than me. Actually, we just had friends that went with, they're friends with an A-list celebrity. And we were with them this weekend and they were telling us that they didn't even go inside the park. They got in an SUV and they would drive on the perimeter of the park, enter the rides through the back. They would shut down the entire ride just so this person and his family and their family that was with them could go on the ride. And I'm like, that is the fucking Disney experience that I need.
Damn. Who's the friend? Obama? So fuck?
I'm not at liberty to say. I don't know the guy that. Well, I don't put his shit out on blast.
It's Johnny Depp. It's Johnny Depp on the Pirates of the Caribbean side. Well, you're only a first year employee at Disney, so maybe when you put a few years in, you'll get those perks.
Renegotiate.
Yeah. Be on the lookout for that complimentary turkey leg for you that you can split with your family. JJ, the first thing we want to do is a little fit check where you're going to walk the audience at home through the totality of the outfit that you're wearing today. The choice for you is you can start top down or you can go bottom up.
Wait, say that again?
You're going to describe the outfit that you're wearing today in a fit check, but you can start at the top or you can start at the bottom. Sneakers.
Okay.
The choice is yours. And there's a correct answer.
I'm going to start at the top, actually.
Sorry, bro. You blew it.
Full disclosure. I had a golf match that went a little long. That's why I'm running 10 minutes, 15 minutes late here. And I came home and not proud of my golf fit. So I just threw on a different T-shirt and a different hat. But actually I have on a hat that says "Come as you are." I'm wearing it backwards right now, but a hat that says "Come as you are."
Because you're a big Nirvana fan, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's Montauk Brewing out here on Long Island. That is their sort of company slogan.
Summer in a can.
Great friends with those guys. They make great beer, and they also have great gear as well. So wearing that, the shirt I'm wearing is the shirt that you'll see me in probably 40 to 60% of the time, depending on the season, and that is just a simple Reigning Champ white tee.
Shout out Reigning Champ, our friends up north.
Best t-shirts. Absolutely love them. I'm wearing some some G4 golf shorts.
Is that like a private jet merch? Like what is that?
Yeah, what is that?
No, it's G4, like four. You like four? Oh, four right? Yeah.
Yeah, they could take some tips from Montauk Brewing, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I've still got my Adidas slides on from walking off the course. So yeah, I mean, I if I knew we were going to do a whole fit of what I was wearing, I might have opted out. But generally speaking, like the white tee is a go-to. It was one of the reasons, honestly. No, it was one of the reasons that like I was so keen on getting a sleeve.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't really wear jewelry and I don't wear loud fits. And I was like, it's just an accessory that's on me at all times. And what looks good with a sleeve, a white t-shirt? Like,
absolutely.
Come on, there's nothing better.
That's
never
a classic.
Take it off, never got to put it on.
That's a classic combo. So you put zero thought into your tattoos besides that. We're going to ask about it later, but just wanted to be clear. Okay. Oh, and then last thing we got to know is what are the panties? What's the underwear situation, dog?
I've worn Calvin Klein underwear briefs for the last probably 15 years. It's really all I wear. Although I will say this, I get free shit all the time. It's one of the perks, I guess, of being an ex NBA player
and a podcaster. We get free shit too. Let's not get
and when brands advertise on the podcast, they send me and Tommy gear. Or if it's, we get CBD products, we get
hell yeah.
We get
mattresses.
We get sunscreen. Yeah, I got a mattress. No bullshit. Okay. When I first launched the pod, Casper Mattress was a sponsor, and I did an ad read for them, and I got a free mattress out of it.
What percentage of the free clothes that you get are trash, though?
Oh, it's
up there.
It's up there. Some of the products
What's higher, your career free throw percentage or the percentage of clothing you get that's absolute ass?
A career free throw percentage. Okay. This was leading back to your question about my underwear, which nobody really ever asked me what kind of underwear I wear. But so Tom Brady has his clothing line,
right?
And he sent me some golf gear and he sent me some underwear. And I will say that the Brady underwear, the boxer briefs are in my rotation right now.
Okay,
they're super soft. Super good. The company that I was shocked at, and I talk about them a lot, and I wear their golf polos a lot, is Roback. Roback makes amazing gear, and not just like golf gear. Like they have performance t-shirts for working out, performance hoodies that I literally rock all the time. I'm a hoodie fan. I'm a white tee fan. I'm a black jeans. I'm a white sneaker fan.
Yeah. You're a classic man.
and then with suits, it's the same way. Like I'm not peacocking when I wear suits. If you have a well-fitted suit that, I have a tailor in New York that makes my suits. They're, this is not a humble brag. This is just a brag. They're handmade in Italy. and like, I don't need to wear loud patterns.
Right.
I just can rock classic looks.
It helps be 6'4" handsome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But that's truly, I just, there's so many things that I think about in life. I don't want to overthink what's in my closet.
Right. Just get a whole sleeve of tattoos and call it a fucking day.
Exactly.
Good to know, though, that Tom Brady's strong at supporting the boys.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So no jewels. Is that a complete fit check, JJ?
Oh, the watch.
What's the watch?
Oh, my watch. Yeah. So again, just got off the golf course. My wife got me this for Christmas. It is the Tag Heuer golf watch.
Nice.
And it is a smartwatch, but it's connected to my phone, and I just download a course that I'm about to play. Ooh. And then when I walk on the course, I hit, hopefully hit it in the fairway. It'll say like, oh, you're 157 to the center of the green, Okay. So it's a great watch.
So you're a big cheater.
No.
It's putting caddies out of work all across the nation.
Oh, damn, dude. That's the working man, bro.
They still,
JJ Redick, not job creator. You heard it here first.
I already made the handmade suit comment. I'm not going to make it.
Right. Okay. We got you.
All right. Fit check complete. JJ, thank you for coming on to the only podcast that matters. Yes, we are a podcast about fashion. It is a visual art form told through a audio medium, which doesn't really work. But while we have you, we need to pick your big basketball brain. Got to know, man. So far, It's been an offseason full of crazy rumors, crazy signings, crazy trades. What's been the one offseason move that has blown your mind the most?
The one offseason move that has blown my mind the most. I think we're still waiting on it.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Look, I knew that Kyrie and Kevin were going to try to leverage their relationship to get Kyrie an extension. That obviously didn't happen.
Right.
And now the whole thing is blown up. And we saw what Rudy Gobert got in the trade market. You know, real players. Mm-hmm. I mean, Pat Beverly was in that trade. There, a good young player was in that trade, and 4 first-round picks. So what the fuck is Kevin Durant going to get in the trade market? What is Kyrie going to get? So that is going to be fascinating, whether it happens in the next few days or whether it happens in the next 3 months. That trade, when it goes down, will be fascinating to me. I don't ever blame a guy for taking the bag. I will never do that. Like, so Bradley Beal opting out and then re-signing that 5-year, $250 million extension. Like, I'm all for that. That was not shocking. Yeah, I think that's the one that I think the whole league is watching right now, because there's going to be repercussions across the board.
On the flip side of Bradley Beal chasing the bag, which of course we also respect, honestly, even more so than winning on this podcast getting paid. What about, were you surprised when James Harden did like the good guy thing, like at least for the time being? Did that surprise you?
No, because I think it's an example of relationships mattering. So his relationship mattering with PJ, that he wanted PJ on board and was willing to sort of do the right thing to create that space for the mid-level exception. And then his relationship with Daryl Morey mattering, and of course his relationship with Michael Rubin. So like, I'm not surprised. Whatever ends up happening there, like, James is going to be taken care of.
Yeah, unlike you, he's a job creator.
Yeah, exactly. You could argue that I am as well.
Maybe not on your own production company. Yeah, just not on the golf course, right?
AJ's been he's kept that one granola bar company in the green for fucking 15 years, you know?
Yeah.
That was one of the things you mentioned in the intro that I was like, fuck, dude, I can't believe I ate those granola bars every day. Did you stop when you retired? Like, is that why you retired? I mean, again, by the end of the career, by the end of my career, I was just like, I can't even stomach these things. I'm not even going to name the brand, but it's like tastes like fucking cardboard.
Got
the job done.
Unless they provide the bag, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, as New York guys, another big move this offseason was Jalen Brunson getting over $100 million with the Knicks. Our question for you, JJ, will the Knicks ever be good? Ever?
Full stop.
Yes. Look, the safe answer here is yes, because I think you're saying ever. I mean, I think in 30 years, there's a good chance they've had a couple good seasons.
What do you think will happen first? New York City will be underwater because of climate change, or the Knicks will make it to the finals?
I think there's a good chance parts of Miami are underwater before the Knicks are good. I think that's probably a safe bet.
Yeah.
No, I think Jalen. I obviously played with Jalen Brunson. He's a fantastic player. He deserves every dollar that he got. He's going to be a great player for the Knicks. He will admit that he's not the transcendent player that they have missed out on again and again for the last 20 years. And Carmelo was probably the closest thing that they had to that. But look, they missed out on Steph. I mean, you go down the list over the last 15 years since I've been, in the league, like the guys they've missed out on drafting, even as close as RJ Barrett, who I love and I think will end up being an all-star and an all-NBA level player. He's only 22 years old. He's already done some great things. They missed out on Zion and Ja because they ended up getting third in that draft. Right. And so some of it has been luck. Some of it is they haven't drafted well. They haven't used their resources well. And yeah, they're still kind of stuck in the mud. I mean, what's the best case scenario next year?
James Dolan dies probably.
I mean, maybe I don't know, like
who's
5-6 seed. I mean, yeah. Who's to say? Well,
JJ, you are in your. It's been an off season full of big moves, and you are in your rookie year at ESPN as an NBA analyst, right? The Disney perks are not busting quite yet, but in such a short span, you've already become the people's champ. What are the keys to just being a good NBA analyst?
Well, the first thing is being prepared. And so I've approached this chapter of my life in the same way that I approached my first chapter. And so much of my confidence as a basketball player came from all the work that I did. My routine, was primary to everything that I did in my career. And
dialed
so
in.
I take that now in my second chapter, and I'm as detail oriented as I was in the first chapter. And I'll give you an example. Like, I watch games every night. I'm talking with people across the league every day. I wake up early in the morning, usually like 6:30, and I get a notes from all the games the night before. I pick out what is important. I then do my own research on NBA.com, which uses Synergy, or I'll go on Second Spectrum. I'll look for advanced stats that I like. I'll look at different splits for a guy. If I know I'm going to talk about a player that day, what has his splits been in February versus March? I'm constantly looking for data to use. So that's one. Number two, you have to be a good communicator. I think that's why I've always viewed myself, even as a player, I kind of viewed myself as a coach. I was a voice in the locker room. I was a communicator. I brought people together. And then the third thing is authenticity. I mean, that's really, like, I haven't been perfect in this part. I've said some things that I probably wish I could take back, or that I would down the line admit, hey, I was wrong on this. I'm not perfect with it, but I'm not trying to be anybody I'm not. I'm trying to be myself, and I'm trying to be honest, and I'm trying to be truthful.
You have your pregame routine was legendary for how dialed in it was, including those granola bars, same granola bar for 15 years. What's your pre-pod or pre-TV appearance routine?
I take a bunch of notes, sometimes on my phone and sometimes on my notepad. Even when I go on other people's podcasts, I always have a notepad in case you say something that I want to get back to, or maybe there's something when you ask a question, I know I want to get to something else.
Zero chance any insightful shit comes up today. So
exactly. But no, so I'm always taking notes. My routine is very simple with it, though. I take a bunch of notes. I have all the stuff that I want to talk about. And then 30 minutes before the podcast, or 30 minutes before I go on a show, I do my final notes. And that is as succinct as possible. Those are like a random stat or a specific question that I want to get to if I'm having a guest on the podcast. But generally with the pod, it's just I'll write down 5 or 6 topics. And then out of that, I'll write 3 or 4 things that I just want to be very specific about. So it's more thinking about it. It's cerebral. It's the same way. It's more thinking about it the whole week before I have a guest, and thinking about how to frame a question. And then right before, it's like, I'm going to have a glass of wine with this guy, or I'm going to get a coffee with this, and we're in private. What would I ask him? Mm-hmm. That's as simple as I can make it. Because I want a podcast to feel organic. I want it to feel like it's a conversation that you just kind of, oh, I just walked in on this. This is really interesting,
But you're not doing like 50 push-ups beforehand to get one last pump in.
dude, my part of the reason I retired, honestly, is my routine was just so exhausting. Right. It was just so, my routines had routines, and they weren't superstitions. They were just like, this is what I need to do to prepare myself to play. And even in the off season, my routines in the off season, I always said to my wife, I'm like, I'll know when it's time to retire when I can't do the off season, when the off season seems too daunting.
Right.
And that's, I can't, I don't want to overbear myself, because you have to have, when you're giving analysis or when you're asking questions, you have to have a clear mind. And it's the same. The other part about the podcast specifically is, like, when I ask a question, I'm listening. And so that's why I always have my notepad next to me, because a guy may talk for 3 minutes and he may say something in the first 30 seconds that's really interesting. He may say something at the 2-minute mark that's really interesting. And I want to be able to get back to that. I want to be able to sort of to have a full breakdown of what he's talking about. It should never be question answer. Right. If that makes sense. One
strategy that's worked really well for us, I don't know if you've ever tried, just interrupting people is usually pretty good in terms of like.
Yeah, no, I actually, when I first started podcasting, I would do that all the time. And like, people would leave random notes for me on Twitter. Like, you need to stop interrupting your guests. And sometimes when I watch other podcasts, I'm like, wow, they fucking interrupt a lot.
Yeah. It's
you read
called
the
the
comments?
steal.
Do you read the comments? Do you listen to the haters?
Oh yeah, I don't care about that. I don't care about the haters, but I read comments for feedback.
Okay,
sure.
Because like when I think about the podcast specifically, I think about one thing and one thing only, and that is growing the audience. Because everything else that happens from a podcast as a business comes from being able to grow your audience.
Right.
And it's not looking for clickbait. It's not looking for that. I don't care if Fansided picks something up. I look at our audience numbers. That's the only thing I care about. And so to get feedback, I look at comments on YouTube. I look at comments on Twitter a little bit, Instagram a little bit, but YouTube really, that's where, we have a huge audience there, relatively huge audience. Yeah. But for a podcast, we have a big audience there. And so that's where I sort of get feedback. And generally speaking, you can scroll down first 20, 30 comments. You're like, oh, we need to be better here. Oh, the mic was in the wrong place. Oh, it's like we all, like Tommy does that. Our head of production, Jason, does that. We all read the comments. We want it to be on point.
Well, so JJ, guys, if you're listening at home, and you want to harass JJ Redick, now you know you can leave a YouTube comment. He's going to see it.
Yeah. But JJ, I feel like you've learned how to deal with the haters early on in your career. That being said, we are not above clickbait, which is why we want to talk about a legend that you work with. What is the best thing about working with Stephen A. Smith?
The best thing.
Interesting, taking your time here.
No, because there's a lot of things that I really enjoy about it. First of all, he's fucking entertaining.
You don't say.
It's sometimes he's on his rants and I'm trying to hold back laughter or hold back a smile, and I don't always do that. And the camera, we'll be on a split screen, and I'm like, and I'll, because people send me the clips, they'll screenshot it, be like, "What were you thinking here with this eye roll or whatever?" It's so I find him to be very entertaining, and he'll walk in at 9:58. Hey, what's up? Maybe we have something that happened. How was the game last night that you were at? Oh, it was good. It was good. All good. When did you fly back? I flew back this morning. Okay. Yeah. And then there'll be like 30 seconds, and it'll just be silent for 30 seconds. And then they'll be like, we're going to do a cold open, and it'll come on and we'll split screen, and he'll just turn into a different person.
Yeah.
He plays this character. He's he's being himself. It's not like he's not being himself, but he turns it on. And the first time I just remember being like, what the fuck was that? I didn't watch First Take I didn't watch shows as a player. I didn't care. And I was like, what the fuck was that? That was awesome. Second thing, he's been incredibly supportive, and he's not just supportive of me. He's incredibly supportive of everybody. Like that show gives every person that goes on it a really big platform. And we did a live show last week with Draymond Green, and we're sitting in the green room. We're about to go out in 5 minutes, and he comes back in the green room. Like, he showed up to the show. I'm like, fuck, dude, this is awesome. Thanks for the support. And Draymond's guy, Adam, was like, hey, are you guys going to talk about new media? And I was like, yeah, of course. He's like, Stephen A. should come on. I was like, you want to come on? He's like, yeah. So he came on the show for 15 minutes. Like, wasn't supposed to.
Oh, it wasn't even planned. Wow.
No, it wasn't planned. It was totally impromptu. Like, stuff like that. Him coming on my podcast, and then basically his team creating videos from that,
right,
and posting organically on his own social media feeds. Like, all that stuff matters. Like, he's been very supportive, and that's what I appreciate the most.
Yeah, he's like a cottage industry at this point, right? So to be a part of that is
kind of
good for everyone, for sure.
Yeah. What's the worst thing about working with Stephen A. Smith?
His takes.
It's fucking Sub-Zero frigid takes. Yeah.
He does consider himself a super. He does consider himself. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the takes are a good and bad thing for me, because they're bad. Like, he has some really bad takes. Let's be clear on that. But they're good for me, because then it makes me look better than I probably, than I actually am.
Right. Addition by subtraction.
But I would say the whole experience with him has been, like you mentioned the percentages earlier, like, it's 100%. It's been nothing but positive and nothing but a great experience. I truly mean that. I'm not just saying that because I still want to go on a show. He really has been amazing to work with.
Do you have a favorite take of his because it is the worst of all time? Like, something that jumps out?
Man, I think whenever it's not just him, whenever we talk about Jordan versus LeBron, whenever we have this GOAT debate, if you are from a certain generation, you're going to lean heavily towards Jordan. And in the process of doing that, a lot of times you inadvertently sort of shit on LeBron. You know, you want to bring up, like, we have such recency bias. We all do. Humans do. And we certainly have it in the media. And so you want to bring up all these things from LeBron's career where he failed. And it's like this, you know, three-peat that happened twice. It's like, well, he was 100%. You know, he was 6-0 in the finals. And you're like, well, LeBron doesn't get credit for going 10 times.
Right.
Like, we're not going to, like, shouldn't LeBron get credit for not taking 2 years off? And I'm not saying LeBron is the GOAT. I'm not saying that at all. But that generation just constantly sort of inadvertently shits on LeBron. Yeah. And it's like, well, we're talking about, if he's not one, he's 1A. Like, that's not, I don't think that's up for debate. So it's like bemoans a legend. And I bring this up all the time. The thing that is interesting to me is, like, it got worse certainly once cable television came around and sports radio and talk shows and all this. Like, players became more and more scrutinized, and then we hit this inflection point with social media and 24/7 news programming and debate shows. And our generation is the first generation of players to live through that. Prior generations of players, they had been canonized,
right,
with no real critical scrutiny. And so whenever our generation brings anything up, it's like, oh, you're disrespecting the old generation. I'm like, no, I'm not. Yeah. I'm just acknowledging some context here.
It's like OG hip hop heads or even classic rock guys. It's like, yes. It doesn't, I get what you're saying. And and a lot of times by bigging up, you know, previous thing that maybe a certain audience wasn't around to see, it then undermines current talent, which I get what you're saying with LeBron.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen A. Smith.
I think it goes back to, well, go ahead. Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith, he considered himself a fashionable guy. What do you personally think of his fits?
Oh, I've told him. They're not great. They're not great.
And how does he react to that?
Yeah.
Well, Stephen A. is a confident individual.
Better be.
We were talking about the simplicity of my own wardrobe and the sort of the classic nature of it. And then with Stephen A., like, some days he'll come in and he'll have this really nice Tom Ford suit on that fits really well, and he's got a white or a white button up on. And then other days he comes in, like one day he came in recently and he was wearing a mustard plaid sport coat with a black shirt and a brown tie. And he thought that fit was fire. And I'm like, dude, that shit's awful, bro. Like, what? But somehow our fits end up, like, he always makes a comment on Molly's fit.
Right.
Then he makes a comment about his own fit and how good he looks.
Sure.
Like, the dude went to the Fashion Institute of Technology for like 1 year and he thinks he's like God's gift to fashion.
Did he really go to FIT, or are you making a joke?
No, he went there. Yes.
What?
He went there.
Really?
Yes.
I got to read up on his Wikipedia page. Stephen A. went to FIT for one semester.
Yeah.
And now he's a fashion plate. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, to be clear, most people at FIT don't be dressing.
Yeah.
I think Stephen A. Smith is just keeping that tradition alive for his proud alumnus.
Respect.
JJ, we mentioned the haters. Where do you think you rank all time when it comes to the most hated college basketball players?
At the time, or are we counting sort of where I stand now?
All time. Who's the GOAT of most hated? Are you the Jordan? Are you the LeBron?
I'm top three. I'm top three.
Who would you say is up there with you? Leitner and Grayson Allen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all Duke guys.
Yeah.
It's all Duke guys.
Well, it's not RJ Barrett. That beautiful, I think Canadian man.
Some of that is just because it's a little bit of overexposure when you play at Duke. Like, we're on TV more than any other team.
And as a white man, for sure.
Every year. And then it's like the white villain, which Leitner started. Thanks, Christian. And then it's like, because like my thing was, when I was in college, we played 10 or 11 games and our only road games were a game in Indianapolis for the John Wooden Classic against UCLA, and then we played in Greensboro Coliseum for the ACC Big Ten against Ohio State. So we get to pass New Year's and we go to our first road game against Clemson, and I come out for warmups, and it's like everybody's just like yelling crazy things to me. And I was like, they've anointed me something before I even sort of did anything wrong.
Before you earned it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was like, he's the next guy. He's the next white Duke guy we're going to hate. You know, it was like, and then once he's gone, we'll hate Paulus, and then we'll hate Shire, and then we'll hate Singler, and then we'll hate Grayson Allen. It's like, now Grayson did some stuff that deserved the harsh treatment. Let's be clear on that. What happened with me was I felt that hatred and that animosity. And rather than just shut the fuck up, I just like created this on-court persona.
Sure. You leaned in.
I leaned in and just like, oh, you think I'm an asshole? I can be, just trust me, I can be an asshole. I will be an asshole.
I will start writing poetry tomorrow.
Yes,
promise
exactly.
You.
Exactly. You want me to read my poetry? Here's the other thing. This came up on a podcast recently, and I'm like, let's be very clear on this. That was not poetry. Those were rap lyrics. All right. Those were rap lyrics. I was a rapper in college. All right. Like I was not, those were bars. Those were attempts at bars.
Yeah. Attempt. A key word being attempts, but for sure.
Exactly.
I'm happy to set the record straight. Wait, did you have a rapper alias? Like a name?
It was just J Red.
J Red.
Yeah.
Can we find your stuff on SoundCloud? If we dig deep enough, can we find you on SoundCloud?
Yeah. There is some stuff on SoundCloud. I'm not gonna.
What?
You won't find it under J Red, I don't think.
Wow.
There is a page still up of the guy I used to rap with. He was a soccer player, and there was a football guy, and then another one of my teammates, Shavlik Randolph, also rapped. But the reason the J Red thing was because my freshman year, right when I got there, would hang out with Chris Duhon and Reggie Love, and those guys had started the year before a football and basketball fraternity, unofficial, of course, called PDF. It was Phi Drink a 40. And we legit had fits made. Like we had gear. We had PDF gear that we went to the local mall in Durham. We found a printer and we created logos. And then on all the shirts, they had like J Red and our number, because I was the 8th member. So all my shit was like J Red 8. We had sweats, we had hoodies, hats. Yeah, it was awesome.
I can't imagine why people hated you. That's crazy.
Looking back, how happy are you that social media wasn't really a thing while you were in college?
Yeah. I wouldn't have made it. I would have made it through Duke. I'm going to be clear. I wouldn't have made it through. Dude, I went my sophomore year. I went out into Shesheskyville the night before the Duke Carolina game and played beer pong. Like, could you imagine if social media was around?
Yeah,
no, I'd be kicked off the team. Like it was
probably.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was. Ridiculous.
You mentioned beer pong, JJ, and I want to settle some ongoing rumors real quick. So 17 years ago, an account on TripAdvisor posted a question asking whether or not any hotels in Cancun had a specific piece of hardware that would be instrumental to a vacation of a lifetime. All right. Someone with the username JJ Redick asks, quote, "So I'm wondering what hotels, if any, offer beer pong or tables that can be used for such glorious activities." Was that you? And were you able to secure a beer pong table?
Wait, is this a true thing on TripAdvisor?
Yeah.
Oh my God. No, that wasn't me. First of all, I'd never go to Cancun. I would never go to Cancun.
Tulum guy.
Yeah. I'm more of a Cabo guy.
Right.
But that's amazing.
Yeah.
I did play a lot of beer pong. When I went back for the Duke Carolina game this year, the last home game that we lost, I went back with Bob Myers and Mike Dunleavy, the Warriors front office guys, and I watched the Lakers Warriors game. Game ended. I'm like, it's like 11:45, and I'm like, fuck, I'm just gonna go back. I got an early flight. Gonna go back to my hotel. And as I'm walking out, there's a group of Duke students that had just graduated. And they're like, hey, we're going to Shooters. I don't know if you guys know anything about Shooters, but it's a local country western bar with a mechanical bull.
Hell yeah.
In Durham, and that's like the hot spot.
Sure.
And I'm like, all right, I'll go. My boy was there, Tony, and we ended up playing beer pong. And we had multiple games. We were 6-0. We had multiple games where the kids, the poor college kids, didn't even get to shoot the ball.
Oh, you naked lap
throw the ball.
Yeah, you naked lap.
Yeah, it was 6-0. 6-0. We just buckets. Give us the ball. It's back. Like it was ridiculous. So I still have the touch.
Okay.
I still have the touch.
Right,
so that's interesting because there's someone on Reddit that claims that people used to talk shit about you in college because you were supposedly bad at beer pong. Are you saying that JJ Redick is amazing at pong?
Yeah. You're nice with it.
I've taken some L's. I've never been bad. I was never bad at beer pong.
If people,
I don't know where that comes from.
If people played you in college and like beat you, was the shit talking at an all time high? Because I mean, who would you rather beat in beer pong than like, you know, a dude who's 89% from the free throw line and the all time leader in 3-pointers made, right?
I think the shit talking was worse with like friends than it was with like random people. Sure. You know, like, and I would go like my first 2 years. I went to my buddy was from Davis, California, so we would fly to Sacramento, drive up to Davis. We would hang out at UC Davis for a couple days. Then we'd drive down to UC Santa Barbara. One year we stopped at San Luis Obispo. Another year we drove all the way to LA. Then we'd go back up and we'd stop in all these random colleges and we'd play beer pong against random people. And you know, it was fun. And, you know, but the heated matches, like I got in a couple fights with friends over beer pong games because the shit talking just got out of hand.
Yeah.
You know, where you all of a sudden you're talking like personal stuff, you know? I was always good. I don't buy that.
Right.
Don't believe everything you read on Reddit, James.
I will say though, the one experience I have playing a professional athlete in beer pong was Andy Redick. And I beat his ass, and Andy Roddick, excuse me.
Andy Roddick,
yeah. Not your brother Andy. He did not take it well whatsoever. So you know,
I mean, yeah, Andy Roddick's a psycho. He's a competitive psycho. Like that's not surprising. Most professional athletes to get to where we are, like we're competitive psychos. We're nut jobs, right? Absolute nut jobs.
That's fair.
From all that hate in college, whether it was because you know you were crossing the line with your elbow on beer pong, or just from fucking the J Red 8 type shit, what's it like now getting all this love as the people's sportscaster, bro?
You know, going through what I went through in college required a lot of therapy, and some of it was immaturity, and some of it was just not understanding why I was receiving so much hate, and then becoming comfortable with who you are, I think it's like a life skill, you know, it really is. And I think some of it was just, and I was still a douche when I got to the NBA. Let's be clear on that. But my wife mellowed me out. I met her and we started dating after my second year. And I think some of it was that, some of it was just growing up and becoming more mature. Sure. So I don't think about, like we're human beings. We want people to like us. I don't want to like walk down the street and have people scream things at me like what happened in college. Right. Like that's not fun. That's not a fun experience. But like I don't care if like some guy on Twitter thinks that I'm a bad TV analyst. Like that doesn't bother me. And in the same vein, if somebody praises me on Twitter, like that doesn't. I don't know. I look at it like this. It was the same way with a basketball player. As a basketball player, when I sort of started becoming a free agent, got to my second contract, third contract, fourth contract, all that stuff, it was like, am I valued? Mm-hmm. Am I valued around the league? Do teams value me? Am I valued in a locker room? Am I valued with the coaching staff? That's more what matters. And it's the same thing with this. It's like, do I have a value? I think that's more what it is. And you know, Stephen A is a great example of that. He has incredible value as a television analyst and as a media personality, but there's a lot of people that don't think that he has great takes.
Right.
And some of that is just the nature of television, but it's more about creating value than it is like, I hope everybody likes me.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And then if you're like pandering to make, like, you can't be everything to everyone. And then at that point, what is the value, like you're saying, then you're a fucking blowhard or whatever, you know?
Well, the other thing that has happened a bunch, which I didn't realize this was a thing until this year, is we'll do this on the podcast. We'll do like trade deadline stuff or free agency stuff or the draft, and we'll talk about 3 or 4 guys. And if we don't mention someone, we won't even say anything bad about someone. If we don't mention someone, then I'm a hater. It's like, why do you never talk about the Raptors? Do you hate the Raptors? I'm like, what? No.
You're anti-Canada.
No, we were talking about the Memphis Grizzlies. What the fuck do the Raptors have to do with the Memphis Grizzlies?
With the Apex Predators,
Yeah, a nice little whataboutism from the fans at home at Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Also, it's long term, right? So it's not just like you can't win every take, you can't win every segment, you can't win every episode. But I want to talk about a time where you did win, JJ. I think it was 2015. You showed up to training camp with the Clippers, and you seemingly had this tattoo sleeve that had appeared overnight, right? That people went wild for. The question we want to ask is, who among your NBA colleagues has the worst tattoos? And just maybe as a memory refresher or to kill some time while you think of it, right? We got Reggie Miller with the sunburst around his belly button, right? Yeah. We got Sean Stevenson's $5 bill tribute to Abraham Lincoln. We got Kmart's lips on his neck. We got Chris Anderson, the Birdman, his Freebird neck tattoo. And unless we forget Jason William with the Wit E-Boy knuckle tats.
Yeah.
Who do you think just like had chocolate? Who fucking bricked it?
Yeah, who's got the worst stats, dude?
Oh man,
we bought you a lot of time to think there.
Yeah. So, first of all, I just want to clarify something. I actually did my sleeve in season.
Okay.
So
really?
So we had a game on Monday. We had Tuesday off. And then I got half of it done, the upper half done on Tuesday. I showed up to practice Wednesday. Everybody's like, what the fuck? And then I had half a sleeve for a month. And then I got the second half done. And then I did 2 where, I filled everything in and did the detailing. So it took 4 months to complete because I was in season. The guy was in San Francisco and he would fly down to LA once a month to sit down with me for 4 or 5 hours to do each session.
You had a standing appointment.
Did it hurt to play with while it was in progress?
It didn't hurt to play with. The only thing that happened was the first one I got, the next game, which was 2 days right after I got it. I'm still putting ointment on it and everything. Gerald Henderson he was just a terrible fouler. He just, every foul was hard. He grew out his nails and he scratched a lot because he would grab you.
Hell yeah.
And he scratched my lion's face. There's this 2-inch scratch on my lion's face. And I was so concerned that my lion was going to have a deformity when it healed. But luckily it did not.
Wow.
Luckily, actually my winged man, I'm not a fan of his eyes, but other than that, I like the tattoo.
You asking the coach to take you out? Yo, coach, I'm hurt. Take me out.
I got my tattoos fucked up. Luca's one over his shoulder. I think it's supposed to be Slovenia. I think.
Right.
I think. But it looks like a deformed map of the world. So when you ask him what it is, he actually says the world, but it's not the world.
It's not.
It's supposed to be Slovenia.
Damn.
Hey man, all maps are political. Well, you talked about the 24/7 nature of just the how we look at athletes and the access we have now. And one thing that's become such a talking point are the fits that we see on draft day. Looking back on your draft day fit, how would you score yourself?
At the time,
given the context,
I'd give myself an 8.
Really?
And if you see a photo of just me, you're like, man, that is a big suit that he's wearing.
Right.
Go find a photo of all the guys that were in the green room at the draft that night.
Yeah.
I had a skinny suit on relative to what they were wearing. That's when everybody had the LV fit, which was basically double wide legs. The jacket ran down almost to the knees.
Yeah, looking like they blew a bag at the Steve Harvey store.
Yeah, it was tough. I think so. At the time, it was an 8. Long term, it was a 3.
Right.
If I had to judge myself,
you kind of
in perpetuity, it was a 3.
You have 3 buttons, which is nice. Versus like James said, the Steve Harvey shit. You kind of look like Regis Philbin hosting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Do you wish you went harder because it's kind of now nondescript too? Is that good or bad that it's just kind of fall into the annals of time at this point?
Yeah, you have to understand something about that period of time in my life. So I wanted to go to homecoming my junior year, and my parents didn't have an extra $150 to go buy me a suit at JCPenney. So I got a job working in a restaurant, which I ended up working there my junior and my senior year, to earn some money because I had a car then, 1984 birth year Honda Accord. It was great. It came in one color that year. So I buy this $150 suit, and that's all I've got, right? All through college, I've got this $150 suit from JCPenney. Then Xenia says they're going to make me a suit for the draft.
Nice.
And I'm like, what this suit is $3,500. Are you serious? Like, I didn't care what it looked like. I wanted to look fine. I just couldn't believe, like, I was paying, my parents had to take out a loan so that I could live off campus my senior year by myself. So I got drafted the next day. I wrote my mom a check to pay off that loan. Like, I didn't care. I was those 2 months between, you know, I'm signing cards and they're like, here's $12 a signature. Go sign 10,000 cards. I'm like, I got $120,000 to sign cards. This is fucking insane. Like my mind was blown throughout that process. I didn't care. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go hard on my fit. I didn't think about that. It was like, I'm getting to wear a Xenia suit. This is incredible.
At least someone told you to take the label off the sleeve. That would have been a faux pas, right? If you're like,
exactly.
Xenia, it's Xenia.
You should have done the custom lining, with the J8 jerseys.
J Red 8, J Red 8, and the PDF logo.
Yeah, for real.
Well, we talked about the PDF style phase you went through. Looking back with maturity, with knowing and loving thyself, what is a style phase you went through with hindsight being 2020 that you now regret the most? And I'm sure there were a few.
There are a few. There are a few. Probably the year 2000 till about the year 2008.
Oh, almost a whole decade. Okay.
When I thought I was a double XL. I thought that was my size.
Okay.
And then I'm like, oh no, I'm a large. Sometimes a medium. Sometimes a medium, you know? That's one. Specifically within that time period, in high school, I would wear double XL polo shirts. So sometimes double XL button ups, long sleeve button ups.
So like you're on your Soldier Boy swag.
Yeah. Or polos, but then I'd wear 2 t-shirts underneath.
Oh yeah.
To make myself look.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
Right.
My buddy, Tyler Lumsden, he played pro baseball for a little bit, but I basically wore it like that because that's how he wore it. And we always joke, like, what the fuck why were we wearing? Like, why would you ever put a polo on and then have 2 t-shirts on underneath? That seems weird to me.
You're just trying to look buff? Like, just look buff.
Yeah. And then I would say there was a period of time where it was very much the hashtag menswear time period, like right when Instagram came out.
Yeah. And
I look back on my suits during that period of time and I was like, yeah, you definitely could have gone up a size. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be able to see my quad muscles in my suit. And
it's like Goldilocks.
The jackets were short. It was, it was
the other side of the coin where you're like struggling to breathe now. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I think, and then I just was like, then I got older and then I was like, I don't really want to take a lot of time. So then it was just like creating a basic template to wear to games. This is when people started photographing things. And I was like, you know what? Like, I look really fucking good in a bomber jacket, you know, and I'm going to lean into that. And so I was like the bomber jacket guy, you know, that's all my teammates were like, what bomber jacket are you wearing to the game bar? You know, it's like, that's what I would do.
Hell yeah. A little bit of a uniform dresser. We like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it all evolves. It all evolves. And, you know, I was like from probably 2008 to like 2015 ish, I was like really into it. I would read GQ and Esquire and obviously Mr. Porter came around at this time. And so I started reading the Journal and I would read menswear blogs. I was like really into it, trying to understand what was going on. And then I started having kids and I was like, I don't have time. Let's create a template here. Yeah. Let's create a template here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's time to care for another life, not just my own personal wardrobe.
Exactly.
Did moving to Brooklyn late in your career, did that make you start dressing like a fucking hipster?
I don't know. I don't even know what a hipster is anymore. What is a hipster? What is that considered?
I don't think the word holds any water anymore.
That was just, we were just trying to set you up for a gotcha question.
I mean, when I think of a hipster, I think of really, really hard selvage denim jeans.
Yeah, like an Urban Woodsman type deal.
With the cuff rolled up maybe a little too high for my liking.
To the knee.
And then some sort of work boot.
Yeah.
And then a flannel shirt, and definitely facial hair and a high fade. Sometimes with a comb over, buzzed in the part buzzed in. That's what I think of.
Did you ever
think hipster?
Did you ever do any of those things independently or together when you moved to Brooklyn?
Never together. Okay. I mean, I was shaving a side, the side part in by like 2014 or 15. I was shaving that in, and I did it a couple times this year. It like comes and goes. Sometimes like I want to do it, I don't want to do it. Sometimes I want a high fade, sometimes I don't. Like I grew my hair out this year, and then I was getting ready to be summer, and I was like, I want to go back to the fade. My barber gave me a poof, so then I just went home and I took a number 9 and just cut off. Oh yeah, I just did it. Fuck it. And I was like, this is liberating, man. This is liberating. Yeah.
All right, respected. Know thyself. Like
I'm a big work boot guy, though. Okay. I've always been a big work boot guy. Yeah.
What's your boot brand of choice?
Yeah.
I actually like Thursday. Is it Thursday Boot Company?
Yeah.
And I like.
Are they an advertiser?
I mean. No.
Oh,
they're not.
really?
Believe
Wow.
it or not. No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I know I've mentioned a couple that do advertise on the podcast, but no, Thursday Boot is not. Red Wing, and then I've had multiple pairs of. I'm terrible, by the way, with brand. I mean, you're talking to a guy that studies French wine. I still can't pronounce any of the fucking wineries.
That's fair.
But Officine General.
Yeah.
They made some dope boots.
Absolutely.
I've had like 3 or 4 pairs of them, and they last for 3 years. So.
And some fire suiting. What about sneakers though? What's in your current sneaker rotation? You mentioned that you're wearing the slides right now as like a little post golf tender foot massagers. What about sneakers?
Don't care if they're not in style anymore. I will always rock white Common Projects.
Oh, sure, the Achilles,
the classic, the classic that started the whole trend. I'm obsessed with those.
They launched like 1,000 imitators for sure.
Yeah, I switched over from Nike to Adidas after my 10th year, and it was right around the time the Boost technology came on. So just the classic Adidas Boost like running shoes.
Right.
Always have a couple pairs of those and love those. And then I love the John Elliott sneakers, man.
Oh yeah,
I have a pair out here in SAG with me. Yeah, I love the John Elliott
sneakers. Friend of the
sneakers.
show, fucking modern day fucking fashion genius, John Elliott.
Yeah, he's the man.
2 T's. Don't you forget it.
What are the best shoes? What are the best sneakers to hoop in though?
Yeah, we need to know that. What do you hoop in?
I'm not just saying this. I don't have a current contract with Adidas. I'm not just saying this. Literally anything with Boost technology. Okay. Like my feet hurt for years. I had plantar fasciitis off and on, and I would get like sore on my 5th metatarsal. I think is not metacarpal. Metatarsal is the foot. Well, whatever. I'd get sore on the outside of my foot off and on throughout seasons. My heels would hurt, and then I did literally once I switched to Adidas and started wearing the Boost stuff. Like I had no issues. And the challenge for me every year was like, they wanted me to wear current product, which Nike did too. And it was like, I got to find the new Boost shoe that works for me, that has, cause I never liked a high sneaker. Right. I liked like either a mid or a low. Sure. So I was just trying to find the right Boost shoe that had that.
Did you ever hoop in
dunk?
Can I still dunk? My kids asked me to do it the other day. I snuck one in.
Oh yeah,
I snuck one in. Yeah, I snuck one in.
Two-hander?
It wasn't pretty, and then no, one hand, and then it was with their ball, so because I could grip it. You know what I mean?
So a children-sized basketball?
No. It was a youth basketball, which is like I think a normal size NBA ball is 29, it's called 29, and then a women's ball is like a 28 and a half, and then a youth is 27. So it was a youth ball.
We're gonna send a league rep out to measure the hoop too, just to make sure.
I was gonna say, I think it was a double rim. It was a double rim. It was in Carroll Gardens. It was on a court in Carroll Gardens, and I think the court was uneven, so I may have jumped off the lower side. Okay, but it was a double rim, so that kind of offsets.
Okay, still got it, folks.
Yeah, still got it, JJ. You mentioned
actually, I gotta tell this story because I haven't told this story yet. But
go off.
I take my kids to shoot at the park here in Sag Harbor a couple times a week, and I took my son 2 days ago, and we were just me and him, empty court. We're working on his game, working on some layup packages and whatnot. And he's 7, by the way. And these 2 middle school kids come over and they're like, do you guys want to play 2-on-2? And I'm like, Knox, do you want to play? He's like, yeah, let's play. His face lit up. He's like, this is gonna be great. So I'm playing slides and I've got my golf clothes on because I just got off the course, and I've got literally the slides I have on right now. And I just destroyed these kids.
Oh,
it felt so good. It felt so good. I made sure Knox got a few buckets too, but it was like, and then they were like, after like three buckets, they were like, have you played basketball before?
Yeah, I was gonna say they had no idea who you were.
No clue.
Yeah.
Even after I told them that I'd played in the NBA 15 years, they had zero clue. Zero clue.
Did you make these middle schoolers
15th of all time threes?
Do you guys not watch First Take?
Right.
Did you guys not watch First Take?
Did you block the shit out of them, or were you like boxing them out?
Yeah. Fucking.
Well, what happened was we win the first game easily. We're playing to 6, and then we played the second game, and like I'm letting them shoot. The one kid was left-handed. He wasn't particularly good at basketball, and so like he all of a sudden made like 3 17-footers in a row.
Wow.
And they win. And Knox obviously can't guard a 14-year-old. This kid had handles. Like the kid he was guarding had handles. So then I'm like, all right, for the third game, Knox, like we can't lose. I'm just going to let you know. I'm going to score the next 3 or 4 times in a row because it was make it, take it. And I was like, I'm not going to pass you the ball. And he's like, okay, Dad. Okay, that's cool. I was like, we can't lose this game.
Right.
So I did that. And then in that game, I actually played defense and blocked some shots, and I got up on the kid with the handle, and I took the ball from him, stole it from him, so I felt good. I felt like a lockdown defender for like 5 minutes. It's the first time in my life I've ever felt that way.
Did you have to hit the cold tub afterwards?
Yeah.
Dude, I thought I was going to be so sore. It was the hardest I've breathed in about a year and a half, to be honest with you. So like, I don't work out anymore. I weigh the same. I eat what I normally ate as a player, which, I eat very healthy. But I don't eat as much because I'm not hungry in the mornings. So like I eat 2 meals a day and I weigh the same. I just don't have any rip whatsoever. There's abs in here somewhere. You just can't see them.
I mean, you might want to hit the weights because you did lose 1 out of 3 games to 2 14-year-old boys. So,
Well, I wanted them to feel good about themselves,
sure. Okay. Yeah, right.
Before bullying the shit out of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, JJ, you are one of the all-time 3-point scorers in the NBA, but you're talking to 2 all-time Johns enthusiasts, Throwing Fits, the goddamn motherfucking boys, the only podcast that matters. Did you see the sneak preview of the stuff that we designed with Mr. Porter that we sent your way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
What do you think, bro? Our whole was fucking 70 pieces dropping on July 15th. What do you think?
Yeah. Be honest about what you saw in the brief that we sent you.
Well, yeah. So I only probably saw 14 of the pieces.
Yeah.
I would guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I loved it.
Okay.
And actually, my fucking sweatshirt was supposed to arrive today.
Oh no, it didn't.
The tie-dyed. Well, I wasn't here, and so you guys made it. You made it for signature only. There was a signature delivery. Like it's Sag Harbor. Nobody's going to take it.
Okay, first of all, that's not us. That's Mr. Porter. Okay, that is Mr. Porter himself. He fucked that up. God.
I think what happened was those 2 14-year-old boys came by, saw the package, and stole it. They're pissed.
Yeah. When you see a 14-year-old boy draped in some fucking fine Mine Italy tie dye, you're gonna have to blame him for it.
I'm excited about the tie-dye sweatshirt, though. I got to be honest with you. I'm really excited about it.
It's going to be perfect for those Sag Harbor nights, chilling by the water with your family.
Dude,
maybe having a little ice cream. Oh,
yeah. It's the best time to be out here is September, October. It's magical. Northeast in general is magical in the fall. And I'm just like picturing myself, walking down Sag Harbor, going to Buddha Berry, getting them some frozen ice cream.
Hell yeah.
It's gonna be sick.
Little vino for daddy.
Thank you. The capsule looks great. I was disappointed. I only got to pick a couple items and didn't get to pick.
We're gonna rectify all that, mainly because we do need a picture of you wearing the sweatshirt to promote this podcast next week. So we'll make sure that we get it out to you before Tuesday for sure.
All right, good.
No problem.
JJ, we know you're a big watch guy. What's the watch collection looking like these days? What's the rotation?
Yeah.
So in 2017. I had hit a weird point in my life where I realized that my obsessions had sort of overtaken me. And I decided to sell my entire collection, which I regret.
Well, really?
I sold my entire collection and I actually used the proceeds of that for a noble cause. I bought my parents a house so they could finally retire. And,
you had a house on your wrist, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I had more than a house on my wrist. So I sold my watch collection, and then I went about 3 years without a watch, and I bought a Rolex Daytona,
Nice.
like a new one, gold with a black dial. Then I bought my favorite watch of all time, which is the P series, the last version of the Zenith Daytona,
Sure.
with a white dial. It's like the best. If you had one watch, that's the watch to me, because the black bezel, like, I love it. It's cool, but like, I don't know that you could wear it with every fit. I know the Daytona is timeless, but like, to me, the Zenith Daytona P series, last version they made, there's the very rare. Like, that was my one watch. So I bought that. And then my favorite Submariner of all time is the 2-line 14060M, the modified movement, which is later in that model, early 2000s. So I found, I think, a F series, which was like 04 or 05. Found one of those. I had those for 2 years. I just never wore them. I got so used to not wearing a watch. I just never wore them. Wow. So then I sold all of those. So I literally own, besides this tag here, I own 3 watches, and they're all sentimental.
Okay.
One is a Cartier Santos Dumont white gold. Beautiful. That I wore on my wedding, and it's inscribed with my wedding date. My wife and I just celebrated our 12-year anniversary. So I still have that. Thank you. And then my first watch that I ever bought was the day before the NBA draft, which was a Rolex Datejust. So on the day my kids were born, I bought them each a Rolex Datejust.
Wow.
And on the back of that is I inscribed a very personal message to both of them. And yeah, all 3 of those watches just sit in a safe, and I'll have those forever. And then when the boys are at the right time, they get the watches. They don't know they have these watches. They don't know. I haven't told them. No, I haven't told them yet. Yeah, I haven't told them yet.
I hope they don't listen to this podcast.
I was going to say, our age demographic is like pretty young, dude. You might be surprised.
They're getting ready to turn 8 and 6. The only podcast they've ever watched is my podcast, and they get really bored with it.
I was going to say, they probably hate that shit.
Yeah, they just want to watch NBA highlights on YouTube. That's all they do now. They're like, can we watch YouTube? I just want to watch Michael Jordan highlights. So
right now, the watch collection has been truncated multiple times, and you feel good about where you're at. You don't see it necessarily expanding or decreasing, but we're staying where we're at.
I could see myself going back to, I honestly think if I had to build a perfect watch collection, it wouldn't go past 4.
Okay.
It wouldn't go past 4.
Sure.
And you do also, I really believe this too. Like, you don't need to buy like Rolexes and Pateks to have a great watch collection. Like, you can have an awesome watch collection with a bunch of different brands. But yeah, again, it goes back to simplicity. From probably 2010 to 2017, I did the math one time. I counted all the different models and different brands that I own. And I think during those 7 years, I owned 105 different watches.
What the fuck?
I was basically a dealer.
Yeah.
So I would have anywhere from like 15 to 30 in my collection at a time. And some of those watches lasted longer than others.
Right.
But like, when I look back at it, I'm like, I wish I had never sold my Rolex Datejust. Right. Why the fuck did I ever sell that watch? I have no idea. I wish I had never sold my Paul Newman Daytona. Like, why the fuck did I sell that?
Yeah, mainly because you would get a lot more for them right now, for sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, I sold at a time when it was like 18 months away from the market just exploding.
Right.
I had a 62663 that's a Daytona with a black Sigma dial that I think is like, again, it's not a one watch because you can't swim in it, but that to me is the greatest watch ever made. I love that watch.
Is there a white whale in terms of watches that you have yet to track down that you haven't already mentioned, or are you kind of like
that I didn't own? You're saying,
yeah, or have you been to the mountaintop and back at this point?
I think, it's funny. I think anybody who's into watches, and I certainly am still into watches. Like, clearly. I go on Hodinkee once or twice a week. I have a relationship with those guys. Ben Clymer's a dear friend of mine.
Shout out Ben. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm still totally into watches, and I follow a bunch of stuff online. It's funny with watches because, when I, again, was very, very pretty poor. I was poor, not poor, but we got by, but I didn't have any extra money, discretionary income. Like, I thought owning a Rolex was like the mountaintop.
Right.
Any Rolex, you own a Rolex, that's the mountaintop. And then bought that. And then it was like, dude, I want a Royal Oak offshore. Yeah. And when I signed my first non-rookie deal, that was my first purchase. I bought a Royal Oak offshore like a month after I got my deal. And I thought that was the mountaintop. And then I was like, I want an FP Journe Chronometra Blue. Like that was my mountaintop. Even though it wasn't even as expensive as the Royal Oak, it was just so rare.
Right.
Facing that dragon.
So I got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started like, and then I saw a picture of a Patek 5070, 5070. And I was like, that's the coolest looking chronograph I've ever seen. So then that became the mountaintop. Then I learned about the 5970. Then I started getting into vintage stuff. And, you know, I owned like vintage Patek chronos and I never had a 2499. I never had a 6263 Daytona.
Right.
That the Panda Dial 6263 Daytona was probably that for me was the one watch that I desperately wanted that I never owned. Right. That would be the one watch.
Maybe it's good that you got out of the watch game because you were just moving the goalposts all the time. This is very toxic. You know, like this is not good for anyone.
Yeah. But again, I think if I was to build like a perfect collection, I would have a modern Daytona, and by modern I mean the Zenith Daytona. Right. I would have a modern Daytona. I would have that Submariner. I owned a few different vintage Submariners. They didn't do it for me. It's really that model. Like I want to be able to fucking swim in it.
Right.
You know, so it would be those two. And then I would probably add a third Rolex, some version of the 6263.
Gotcha.
So I would be happy with the Black Sigma dial, or I'd be happy with the Panda Daytona. I mean, nobody's gonna be mad about that. So I would have 3 Rolexes, and then I would probably say my fourth watch was a watch I already mentioned, and that's the Chronometra Blue. Like that watch, that's for anybody that has owned, for anybody who has owned that watch or even put that watch on their wrist.
None of our listeners have. Don't worry about it.
It changes colors depending on, I mean, it's the tantalum is the metal. It's this rare metal that not a lot of watches are made with. And the dial is like a different shade of blue and all different. You could argue you could wear that with any fucking outfit,
right?
You know,
it's the vibranium of the watch world.
Yes, it really is. It really is. So that would be, because my thing with the vintage stuff, like I loved them. Proportion wise, that was it for me. I like smaller watches.
Right.
Like even though I'm 6'4", I have normal size wrists, but I always like smaller watches. That's why I went with a 36 millimeter Datejust as my first watch. Right. Like the guy was like, "You sure you don't want a 40 millimeter sub? You sure you don't want a Sea Dweller?" I'm like, "No, I want the Datejust." That's back when you used to be able to walk into a store and actually buy the watch, which you can't do anymore. Fucking watch industry, fuck them. Anyways,
it's
so
like
ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
JJ. I'll be real.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. At your peak of watch collecting, when you were essentially a dealer, were you like wheeling and dealing amongst your teammates? Like, did you show up with the trench coat and you're like, "Yo, I got watches for sale"? Or at least guiding the younger kids.
I sold some watches to teammates, and it's funny. Steven Jackson tells this story all the time. He's like, I thought I was balling out in watches, and then I got to the Clippers and I realized that the shit on my wrist was worthless. Cause like Stephen A would buy a watch and then he put diamonds on it or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm like, no, dude, let me show you my white gold 5070. Let me show you this. And he'd be like, oh, okay. I get it. Yeah.
JJ, I want to talk real quick about your kid's least favorite podcast, Old Man and the Three. Who's been your favorite guest that you've had on so far? Because I feel like you guys are known for just getting awesome names on there.
Big gets only.
Yeah, I mean, you put me in a tough position here because if I name two or three, then we're gonna play the what about.
You're a fucking hater.
Yeah.
You know, I'll throw a few because to me, like we've had like evolution in the podcast, and my favorite early episode we did, which was probably in our first 20 to 30, was DeMar DeRozan, because for two reasons. Number one, I didn't know DeMar. DeMar is not someone that talks shit on the court. He's not somebody that like you're going to go hang out with after the game. Like unless you're sort of like DeMar's guy or his teammate, like there's just not a lot of interaction. And he's someone I always admired and respected and enjoyed playing against because he was so fucking good. And so we had him on, and he was so open, and you know the background. I'm sure he's really went headfirst into this mental health, like taking care of his mental, and he's been very outspoken about it. And people that have done therapy, you can ask them better questions.
Yeah.
I can ask him a question that is a tough, difficult question to answer, and he will not get offended by it. And he can give a truthful, honest answer, an insightful answer. And so that was the first one where I was like, oh shit, like we've got something amazing here. The two we did in January with Draymond and Chris Paul, and then the second time we had Kevin on, which was I think in March or early April. Like, to me, those were like, that's basketball porno.
Right.
Like if you're into basketball, like that was like a hoop dreamers, like to listen to those conversations. I re-listened to all three of those conversations. I never re-listened to my podcast, and I re-listened to all three of those because there's just so much about basketball in there that I loved. And then I will say this, we've really focused on basketball the last 8 months since last October, but Stacey Abrams was fucking awesome.
Sick.
Bob Iger was awesome. And Colin Morikawa might be my favorite all-time episode, but he's not an NBA guy, so I can't say that. But like Colin might be my favorite episode. Like, again, that was another one that was like, I didn't know Colin. He came on the show and it was just like easy. It was easy to talk.
You're talking about like, basketball porn, but then these like conversations with like titans and other, industries and fields. Would you say that like the value prop for Old Man in the Three for people that like haven't tuned in, is it that it's like a Hooper's show, or is it because you have the ability to like code switch between whoever the guest is? Or is it both of those things?
I think it's both those things. Yeah. I think the value in the show is the mix of insight. We try to peel back the curtain, the humanization of the athlete. I think that's my number one priority going into any show with an athlete is, how do I humanize this player? How do I humanize this athlete? And then I think too, it's just like my own comfort level as a host. And that has literally just come from reps. I mean, I started podcasting 6 years ago, and I really, like we were talking about earlier, I let my guests talk, and I'll chime in where necessary. I'll maybe tell an anecdotal story, but it is really about like steering a conversation to get to some meat, to get to something new. And it's funny because we'll get I've never told this story before, and I'm like, yes, you can like visually see it on our Zooms, or if we're doing it in person, where I'm like, oh, good, we're gonna get some stuff here,
some juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Who's been the worst guest? Got to consider both sides.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I mean, you have to.
Got to hear both sides.
Probably Josh Hart. Probably Josh Hart is the worst guest. Yeah, he's just a fucking. I don't know why I'm friends with him. Honestly,
no. Do you have a dream guest, like someone you would love to have on one day?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's two guys that we haven't got that I'm like, I would love to get them. There's actually a third guy that I'm dying to get on, but we're going to get him on this summer. So like, I can't say him.
No spoilers. No, but who are the two?
I don't want to spoil it, but it's Stefan Braun.
Okay,
like,
sure.
Yeah. Those would be the two guys that we haven't had on yet that I would. Here's what I found, and this is not a knock on younger players, is it's much easier to do an hour to an hour and a half interview with a guy who has played 10 plus years than a guy who has played 3 years.
Absolutely.
Because number one, you have more to talk about, but number two, to the point about DeMar, is DeMar has grown up, and he's evolved as a human being. He's evolved as a person and as a player. And so he's able to provide more insight.
Right.
And so that's why I say Stefan Braun, because there's a bunch of young guys we haven't had on that I'd love to get on, but Stefan Braun would be my 1 and 2.
Yeah, we'll text them after this and let them know that you mentioned them, and we'll get it popping for you, bro. Don't even
please.
Yeah,
you got to go on. You got to go on the shop uninterrupted first.
Yeah, yeah. You can get your part shaved in.
You cut your own hair. Just bring your own clippers.
Yeah,
it's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll do a little home and home.
Yeah,
a little home and home.
Exactly.
JJ, last question before we get into the next segment of this podcast. We are a fashion podcast. Who are the most stylish NBA players of all time. We can do a little Mount Rushmore. So maybe top 4 unranked of all time. Who's it going to be?
Top 4. I mean, I've got to throw Russell Westbrook in there.
Yeah.
Like he's in my top 4, easy.
Big swings, sometimes big misses, but you can't deny that he goes for it.
I can't pull off what he pulls off, but
he can't either.
I appreciate that he's himself.
Yeah, for sure.
And like again, I just love it.
I mean, so
like what he wore to the Met this year, the Met Gala.
Yeah, I mean,
like that. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, he shows out for stuff like that. It's some of the tunnel fits are questionable, but there's so many outfits at that point, right? 82 game season, you're going to have some misses. It's just
you might like have to like if we're making a baseball comparison here, the guy's hit 758 home runs, and he's still. It's not like he's like a 220 hitter.
No, well,
he's a 300 plus hitter. His OPS is very high.
No, for sure. Absolutely.
you might personally appreciate what he's doing. What's the general consensus across the league though, when it comes to Russell's fits?
The general consensus across the league, I would say, is the league is a copycat league. So you have to say, Russ started this.
That's fair.
Who is there? Am I missing something? Did he started this?
At least the tunnel fits version for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so Russ is on there. We're giving a slot to Russ, and then 3 more slots on your Mount Rushmore of all-time stylish NBA players.
I got to go with MJ.
Okay.
I got to go with MJ. And look, I'm not talking about MJ now.
Playing beer pong in triple
with the Jinko jeans. Yeah. Remember Jinko jeans?
Yeah, of course.
Like triple white jeans.
Yeah.
Those are his golf.
I'm not talking about
That's
this
what he wears
version
on the course.
Yeah.
But MJ, when he played, everything he did, whether it was like the cutoff tees at practice, the spandex, compression shorts that went below his higher shorts. Like he looked good. The shoes, like, come on, MJ's gotta be on the Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah. Hopping out the Testarossa with the gold hoop. I mean, come on, dude.
Come on. Yeah.
Okay.
Sick.
Fair.
Sick.
That's 2.
All right.
Halfway there.
Yeah.
Throw some names out there.
Allen Iverson.
He's up for consideration.
Yeah, 100%.
Tim Duncan with the jorts on draft day.
Duncan and Dirk are not up for consideration.
They're not. What about Clyde Frazier?
Pre-modern NBA.
Oh, okay.
Different era, different game. Doesn't count.
LeBron? What do you think of LeBron? When he did like the Tom Brown suits?
Yeah.
LeBron's got. I mean, he's got great. Here's a question though. This is what I always go back to. This is what I have a hard time with. Is like Russell Westbrook may now have a stylist. He may now have a stylist.
Sure. Definitely.
But if you have a stylist, should you be considered for the Mount Rushmore? If someone else is picking out your outfits?
This is something that we discuss all the time. I think it's pretty clear if you have a trained eye, like who has a stylist, then kind of who has their own personal style and who is willing to take risks and go big or make mistakes. And
if someone is your collaborator and someone is personal shopping, that's different, right? And I think that, sometimes you can't tell and sometimes you absolutely can, right? And Russ,
I think every guy is going to have input, right? Every guy's going to say, oh, here's what I like. Here's what I like. But like if someone I know there's a lot of guys that have this and do this, they have a person that they give them budget, they pick out their clothes, they go home from practice to go to the airplane, they grab their suitcase, which has been packed for the 5 games for the trip.
Yeah.
And they've got it labeled. This is what you're wearing in Minnesota. This is what you're wearing in Chicago. Like, again, really well-dressed guys I know that do that. And I'm like, I can't put them on the Mount Rushmore. I'm going to put Frank Jackson on the Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
I'm going to put Frank Jackson on there. Now he's got his similar. I appreciate guys like Russ that just have their own personal style.
What about SGA? He's like that, right? I think SGA
is great.
He's definitely like in terms of like relevant streetwear, it's like him and Bol are the only guys that wear like actual like relevant streetwear from like the world that James and I kind of occupy versus like some watered down version that's like a paint by numbers thing or a carbon copy. But Yeah, I think so. You have one more slot then, right?
So SGA was on first team League Fits this year.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
There you go. Wait, who based on what is that? Bleacher Report? Who does that?
No, it's League Fits. It's Slam and League Fits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Slam.
yeah. It's like
Right.
League Fits is like an account. They're like the main account for the tunnel.
Right,
Fits.
right. Do they do?
follow
Wait,
us, no
do
big
they
deal.
do? Do they do 3 teams? Do they do like the full?
They did a
All-NBA?
third team. They did a third
Wow.
team.
Imagine getting on the third team, all league fits.
Get a Slam magazine. Get a job, guys. Jeez. All right.
Man,
Anyone else on there that we should mention?
it's hard. It's hard. I'm gonna have to throw AI. I'm gonna have to throw AI as my fourth.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to throw AI as my fourth.
The swag. I mean, the dress code exists because this man was going too hard in the paint. No pun intended. Like,
I'll tell you some guy based on the League Fits, the first team, second team. Again, this is not. I'm not knocking the guys because I'm not going to name all 15 guys. But these are the guys whose fits
Right.
I watch on League Fits because I follow them, and this is guys I appreciate. I appreciate Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah.
I appreciate Book. I appreciate Tatum.
yeah.
CP.
Okay.
PJ for sure.
Oh, right. Sneaker God, obviously.
Yeah. I'll throw those guys in there.
Okay. That's
They're in
C-
consideration.
Is CP the most stylish former teammate of yours? Who would that be?
Well, Frank Jackson. I play with Frank Jackson.
Oh, right.
There it is.
In New Orleans.
He's on your fucking.
Yeah.
He's on your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
I feel like Blake Griffin speaking of Lob City, Blake Griffin never looks bad. Blake
Griffin
looks
looks
it.
great all the time.
He gets it. He knows about like personal brand.
DeAndre swings for more home runs.
Okay.
Yeah, but Blake's probably he's like a 340 hitter. 25 home runs.
All right.
Probably 38 to 42 doubles a year.
Okay.
Close to 100 RBIs. Yeah.
Wow, dude, this is fucking all-star numbers, dude.
Yeah, he's an all-star. He's an all-star.
Respect.
I always like Blake's fits because like I never had a stylist, but like we had a similar taste.
Yeah.
When we were together, it was like we shopped the same brands literally.
Right.
I mean, so we kind of wore a lot of the same type of clothing and how it fitted was the same. It's clean, it's classic.
Grown man swag.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
JJ, we want to get into the next segment of this podcast, which is Daddy. We're not a family-friendly podcast, so we gotta get into the sucking and fucking portion. What is the advice?
That was dad ass.
Yeah,
to be clear,
didn't come through.
Dad ass.
Dad ass. Yeah,
meats and cheeks. What's some advice you'd give to a single young man who's maybe just entering the league for the first time when it comes to dealing with the opposite sex?
I would say have your guard up. Unfortunately, I would say have your guard up, and not just with opposite sex, but anyone. Like, it's so weird because it's like awkward for me now to go ask someone to come on my podcast because for 20 years of my life, from high school all the way through my NBA career, I was always being asked to do things. I was always being asked for something. Everybody always wanted something from me, and it's hard to navigate that, especially when you're a young player. And for me, I was on my own. I know a lot of guys, bring their parents down at some, early in their career. So I think just having your guard up, kind of always questioning, like, what does this person want from me? It was very clear with my wife, like, she like genuinely liked me.
Right.
She had no idea who I was when we first met.
She liked you in spite of everything.
She liked me in spite of everything. She had no idea about me as a Duke player, the
hashtag menswear
and
wearer.
And she also she keeps me so level-headed at all times. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, if I don't do the fucking dishes before I go to bed and she wakes up to dishes in the morning, like, I'm going to be shitted on, for the first 30 minutes while I'm trying to have my coffee.
Deservedly so.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think keeping your guard up, it's just like questioning people's motives is so important.
Like, you come home, a clip of yours just went viral from First Take. You're feeling yourself, you're feeling gassed up. And then she's like, JJ, you ain't shit.
Do the fucking dishes.
Yeah. Go pick the kids up from school.
Yeah. Find yourself a good one.
But also to those same young men, right? Don't close your heart off, because look at you met her in year 2, right?
Yeah. I mean, I also, my sister had gotten married. What was this? I think, 2007. She got married in 2007. And I remember being at her wedding and telling my mom that I was never going to get married.
What a way to break the news to your mom.
I was like, I'm not ever going to get married. I don't trust anybody, and
famous last words.
Yeah. And then I started dating my wife about a year and change later. Yeah. And that was a wrap.
See ya.
Storybook ever since. Well, JJ, here on Throwing Fits, we only ask the biggest, most philosophical kind of like grand questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the next question is, how much money do you make?
How much money did I make?
Do you make currently?
Currently.
You talking about like as an ESPN analyst?
Everything, baby. What are we doing? I mean, the contracts we can look up. That's public record, but Yeah.
I'm like, I'm at 7 figures.
Okay.
What do you like to spend your hard-earned money on? Is it like golf trips with the boys? Is it nice vino?
I definitely have spent less on wine since I retired, but that is still a big line item on my expense account. Yeah. It's funny. I should have mentioned this because I will get philosophical on this for a second. I should have mentioned this when we were talking about watches. One of the big reasons and an impetus for me selling the collection was I had this revelation that I was, and again, not everyone has the luxury of discretionary income,
right?
But I was choosing to spend discretionary income on things that only benefited me,
right?
And because with a watch, like I can take it to a watch meeting, a watch gathering, or whatever, and like I did that. I would go meet with other collectors. We'd look at each other's watches, we'd try them on, whatever. But it was very much a singular pursuit that only benefited me.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to do that with my money. I want my money to benefit everyone.
Sure.
And so that was a big thing for me, like with wine, was like, I want to share this. I can think back to these amazing events I've had since I really got into wine and started collecting 4 years ago. It's like, I remember the bottles we drank. I remember the conversations we had. I remember what we talked about with the wine. And it's just like, that to me is like a great memory, a great placeholder of time.
Yeah.
So that's why wine is like so important to me. I love experiences. I mean, I took Knox to a bunch of games this year because he got into basketball right after I retired.
Courtside?
Why?
Courtside?
We went courtside to the Celtics Heat game in the Eastern Conference Finals. Those went to school with and was a teammate of the owner's son. So those were comp. But yeah, I spent money on Rangers tickets. I spend money on baseball tickets.
Let's go Rangers, maybe.
I'll spend, I took my sister and her husband and my wife. We all went to Napa to celebrate our anniversaries 2 weeks ago. Like that's something that I enjoyed spending my hard-earned money on. Like it was a great experience. It was a great time. I got to share it with other people. So that's ultimately what it is.
Disney World too. Don't forget Disney World.
Yeah. Crack open.
I never was really into cars. So like that was never like I most of my career, probably I leased a car. Like I'd leased one car when I married my wife. I bought her a car. I'd never, like at one point in time, I drove a Chevy Tahoe from 2010 to 2017. I had a Chevy Tahoe.
Yeah. You're just nerdy about other stuff like the wine.
Yeah.
The wine. It's like a pick your poison. And then it's,
I bought myself a retirement gift.
What was it?
Which was a car. Okay. It was the car. It was like my dream car. It was a car I always wanted. It was a 911 Turbo S.
Sick.
I got that when the new 992 came out, and so I got into that. But that's like I just drove it home from the golf course. It was awesome.
Right.
When
the Throwing Fits Mr. Porter collaboration drops on the 15th, you can just cop the whole thing. Just run it off.
Yeah. Feel free.
Feel free.
Yeah, and then you can wash your sorrows away by cracking open a bottle of wine. Nights you can't remember with people will never forget. That's really the vibe of the pod.
JJ, we want to thank you for coming on to the only podcast that matters. Before we get out of here and get you into the afters, we know your time is precious. We want to offer up some quick constructive criticism because while you're doing amazing, You have so many books behind you, the true mark of a successful guy, which unfortunately we couldn't see in person this time around. We want to offer up some constructive criticism. All right. Because you're doing great as a podcaster, as an ESPN analyst, 15th or 16th, all-time 3-point scorer in the NBA history. But take it or leave it. All right. So I'll go first. All right. We talked about you're fucking sick at the table. JJ and Tommy versus Jimmy and Larry in a best of 7 beer pong tourney. If we win, we get to come out to your crib and throw a pool party. If you win, we'll give you every single piece in Throwing Fits Mr. Porter collaboration for free.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you can come to the pool party. You're invited. When we win, you can come.
Yeah. Tommy's not invited.
Wow.
You're invited.
Your own crib. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What? Okay. How is that constructive criticism? Isn't that just asking?
Don't worry about it.
This is our podcast.
Okay, maybe
it's a bet. It's a bet.
Maybe it'll become more clear with my piece of constructive criticism, which is right now Throwing Fits, the only podcast that matter. Collaborators with Mr. Porter, big time fish in the little pond of fashion podcasting. We're free agents, but why not, sign a max deal with 243 Productions? We're available.
Well, if you could get the company name right, I would consider it.
Fuck. God damn it. Yeah, that's what I said. Right, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, that's my piece of constructive criticism.
He's dyslexic. He's dyslexic. Guys. Don't make fun of his disability like that.
Yeah, I'm differently abled, dude.
So, all right. So I just want to be very clear because I always appreciate constructive criticism.
Like YouTube
I always appreciate being coached, and I want to be clear on this. Your criticism to me is that you want to throw a pool party in my backyard in Sag Harbor.
Correct.
And that you want me to offer you a podcast contract.
A max contract.
Max contract.
Yeah. How does that sound? It sounds good, right?
All right. It's all up for consideration.
I think we nailed
it sounds like you're offering some constructive criticism on our constructive criticism.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's great.
Okay.
JJ, thank you for coming on to the only podcast that matters. We appreciate your time, bro. Much appreciated.
This is fun.
Where can the kids follow you, JJ? What do you want to plug? The floor is yours.
I don't really care about Instagram and Twitter followers, but whatever. I'm on there. You can find me. It's JJ Redick. I do think if anybody who listens to this podcast that hasn't already heard The Old Man and the Three, the aforementioned episodes I listen to are always great starting points.
Sure.
But we keep things topical. We're rolling in real time. We record weekly, and our show is growing. And just give it a listen. Old Man and the Three. We have a YouTube channel. It's under JJ Redick, but you can search Old Man the Three.
Leave some mean comments for sure.
We have we do IG Reels.
Ooh.
We do Snapchat.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on Snapchat. We're the only NBA podcast on Snapchat.
Damn,
so
they're everywhere.
You can find us everywhere.
Thank you, JJ. We appreciate
JJ, thank you again.
Man.
Chef.
Yep.
Hit that outro music.